I learned very early that love could have volume. My mother loved my sister loudly. She praised her in front of guests, kissed her forehead in the kitchen, defended her without thinking. Love followed my sister like a shadow, visible, undeniable, warm. With me, love was quiet. So quiet it was almost theoretical. If I did well in school, my mother nodded. If my sister did the same, my mother told the story for weeks. If my sister cried, the world stopped. If I cried, I was told to be strong, to understand, to not make things difficult. I became very good at not needing things. When my father died, the imbalance only deepened. My sister became my mother's reason to breathe. I became proof that she was tired. Too much responsibility, too many reminders. The house came later. It stood at the end of a narrow road, old and patient, with walls that leaned slightly inward like it was listening. My mother said it would be a fresh start, a quiet place, affordable, practical. She didn't notice the way my sister smiled the moment she stepped inside. I did. From the first night, the house reacted to us differently. My sister slept peacefully. I didn't. At night, the floorboards outside my room creaked slowly, deliberately, stopping right outside my door. The air felt heavier there, pressing against my chest. I would lie awake listening to the walls breathe, convincing myself it was just old wood, just imagination. But when my sister laughed during breakfast and said she slept better than she ever had, something inside me tightened. The house was watching. My mother flourished in that place. She cooked again, hummed, smiled more at my sister than she had in years. The house seemed to reward her for it. Sunlight always filled the rooms my sister occupied, while mine stayed dim no matter the time of day. Small things began to happen. My belongings went missing and reappeared in strange places. Doors locked only when I needed them open. Mirrors reflected me a second longer than they should have. My sister started calling the house comforting. That was when the favoritism sharpened into something cruel. My mother began blaming me for things I hadn't done. A broken glass, a door left open, a noise in the night. It was easier to believe I was the problem than to question the house or her own choices. "You've always been difficult," she said once, not angrily, just factually. The house agreed. I could feel it. It responded to my sister's moods. When she was sad, the house was quiet, gentle. When she was happy, it felt warm, alive. When I was upset, the walls tightened, the shadows deepened, like the house was irritated by my presence. I tried to talk to my mother. She told me I was jealous. That night, the house spoke to me for the first time. Not in words, but in understanding. It showed me things, memories that weren't mine, other families, other sisters, always one loved more than the other, always one overlooked, expected to endure. The house had seen this pattern repeat for generations. It didn't judge, it selected. The house did not punish the unloved, it punished the imbalance. I realized then that the house wasn't against me, it was waiting for the moment when the truth became undeniable. When my sister fell ill, my mother blamed me. She said my negativity was poisoning the home. She said my presence was stressful. She said maybe I should spend some time alone in the back room until things settled. The back room had never been used. The door closed behind me with a final, deliberate sound. In the dark, the walls were warm, alive, and for the first time since moving into the house, I felt seen. When you're ready, say part 2, and I'll continue the story as the house begins to act on what it knows. The back room did not feel like a punishment. That realization scared me more than the darkness. The door had closed without a lock, yet I knew it would not open if I tried. The walls breathed softly, a slow expansion and contraction I felt against my spine when I leaned back. The air smelled faintly of dust and something older, like paper kept too long in a forgotten drawer. I expected fear, panic, the sharp edge of abandonment I had felt my entire life. Instead, there was calm. The house wrapped around me like a thought finally completed. I sat on the floor and listened. At first, there was only silence, then a low hum, barely audible, vibrating through the walls and into my bones. Images pressed gently at the edges of my mind, moments I recognized but had never been allowed to name. My mother turning toward my sister when I spoke, my achievements shrinking in her retelling, my mistakes growing teeth. The house was not showing me these memories to hurt me. It was acknowledging them. You were never wrong, the walls seemed to say, not in words, but in certainty. Time slipped, minutes or hours, I couldn't tell. Eventually, the door opened on its own. My mother stood there, her face tight with forced patience. Behind her, my sister leaned against the hallway wall, pale but smiling faintly, as if the house itself was holding her upright. You can come out now, but please try not to upset her. I stepped past them without a word. The house shifted. I felt it like a subtle rebalancing, as if something inside had taken note. My sister's illness worsened over the next few days. Doctors came and went, unable to explain the sudden weakness, the exhaustion that clung to her no matter how much she rested. My mother hovered constantly, feeding her, comforting her, whispering reassurances. The house responded to that devotion. Her room grew brighter, warmer, the floorboards smoothed beneath her feet, the windows opened easily for her, letting in light and air. Everywhere else, the house tightened. Hallways narrowed, doors stuck, shadows gathered where I stood, as if the house was pressing me towards something inevitable. At night, I began to hear footsteps, not outside my door, but inside the walls, moving from my sister's room outward, spreading like roots. I followed the sounds once, barefoot on the cold floor, until I reached the old staircase leading down to the storage rooms. The stairs had not been there before. They descended into a part of the house my mother claimed didn't exist. I went anyway. The air grew thicker with each step, heavy with memories that weren't mine but felt intimately familiar. At the bottom, the walls were lined with markings, scratches, handprints, names carved and worn smooth with time. Most of the names were women, sisters, daughters. I touched one and the house answered. I saw them then, not as ghosts, not as visions, but as impressions layered into the structure itself. Girls who had grown up watching love pass them by. Girls who had been told to be patient, understanding, quiet. Girls who had stayed when they should have left, or been left behind when others moved on. The house collected them, not out of cruelty, but recognition. It fed on imbalance, on favoritism so sharp it cut into the foundation of families. It absorbed the unloved, the overlooked, not to erase them, but to give them permanence. Above me, I heard my sister scream. The sound snapped me back into my body. I ran upstairs, heart pounding, only to find my mother cradling her, sobbing. "She says the house is watching her," my mother whispered angrily, shooting me a look like this was somehow my fault. "What did you tell her?" "I didn't say anything," I said truthfully, but the house had. That night, my sister dreamed of rooms that rearranged themselves around her, of walls that leaned in too close, of whispers that called her name not with affection, but with expectation. She began to fear the house. The house noticed. It pulled away from her slowly. The warmth in her room faded, the light dulled. She started waking up exhausted, drained, as if something was taking more than it gave. My mother grew frantic. She accused me openly now of jealousy, of wishing harm, of poisoning the home with resentment. The house listened. It did not act yet. It waited for clarity. The breaking point came quietly. One afternoon, while my sister slept, my mother turned to me in the kitchen. Her voice was sharp with exhaustion, eyes hollow. "If you really cared," she said, "you'd leave. Maybe then she'd get better." The words landed exactly where the house wanted them to. I felt the structure around us tense, like a held breath. "I've always cared," I said. "You just never noticed." She laughed, a short, bitter sound. "You've always made everything about yourself." The house disagreed. That night, my sister disappeared. Her bed was empty, the sheets were smooth. The room smelled faintly of dust and something old. My mother screamed, tore through the house, called her name until her voice broke. The
The house remained silent, except to me. It led me back down the stairs, deeper this time, into a room that pulsed softly with light. My sister stood there, unharmed, staring at the walls in awe and terror. "They don't love me the way you do," she whispered when she saw me. "They want me to understand." "They don't want you," I said gently. "They want balance." The walls closed in slightly, approving. My sister began to cry, not from fear, but from realization. For the first time, she understood what I had lived with my entire life. Above us, my mother called my name. The house shifted again. This time, it was choosing.
My mother's voice echoed down the stairs, thin and frantic, stretched by the house until it sounded like it belonged to someone else. I didn't answer. The room we stood in felt older than the rest of the house, older even than memory. The walls glowed faintly, not with light but with presence, as if they were aware of being seen. My sister's hands trembled as she touched the surface, her fingers sinking just slightly, like pressing into warm wax. "They know my name," she whispered. "They know everything." I nodded. They always do. For the first time in our lives, there was no competition between us, no comparison, no invisible scale tipping love in one direction. In this place, the truth existed without decoration. The house did not hate my sister. It simply did not need her the way it needed me. The footsteps above us grew closer. My mother descended the stairs slowly, as if the house was resisting her weight. Each step creaked in protest. When she reached the bottom, she froze, staring at the room, at my sister standing unharmed beside me. Relief flooded her face first, then anger. "What is this?" she demanded, pointing at me. "What did you do?" The house stirred, displeased. My sister flinched. I felt the walls tighten slightly, a warning. "I didn't do anything. You did." My mother laughed, sharp and hysterical. "Don't be ridiculous. This is your jealousy again. You always needed to be dramatic." The house disagreed loudly. The walls rippled. The light deepened. The names carved into the structure began to whisper, a soft chorus of voices layered with years of being unheard. My mother staggered back, covering her ears. "Make it stop." "It won't. Not until you listen." She looked at my sister, desperate. "Come here, don't stand next to her." My sister didn't move. That was when my mother's fear finally found its true shape. Not fear of the house, but fear of losing her favorite. "You don't understand," she pleaded, her voice breaking. "I had to protect her. She was sensitive. You were strong. You didn't need me the same way." The words fell into the room like rotten fruit. The house absorbed them eagerly. "I needed you," I said quietly. "You just didn't choose me." The walls pulsed in agreement. My mother sank to her knees, sobbing now, begging the house instead of us. "Please, take me if you want. Just leave my daughters alone." The house paused. It considered. Then it showed her the truth. The room shifted, and suddenly we were surrounded by scenes, memories unfolding on the walls like living murals. Birthdays where my sister was celebrated and I stood at the edge. Nights where I cried alone while my mother soothed only one child. Moments where love was rationed, measured, and always came up short for me. My mother watched herself over and over again, her hands always reaching past me. "No, I didn't mean." Meaning had never mattered, only pattern. The house fed on imbalance, because imbalance weakened families, cracked them open, made them suitable vessels. Love unevenly given left residue. That residue was what the house consumed. My sister began to cry quietly. "I didn't know. I swear I didn't." "I know," I replied. That was the difference between us. She had been loved too much, and I had been loved too little, but neither of us had chosen it. My mother crawled toward me, eyes wild. "Fix this. You always fix things. You're good at enduring. You can make it right." The house recoiled. For the first time, it showed anger. The floor cracked beneath her hands, thin fractures spreading outward like veins. The walls leaned inward, cutting off her escape. The whispers grew louder, no longer gentle. Endurance was not the same as consent. The house did not want another caretaker born of obligation. It wanted acknowledgement. "I can't fix what you won't name. You loved one of us louder, and you let the other disappear." The room fell silent. My mother looked at me then, not through me, not past me, but at me, really at me. Her face collapsed inward as understanding finally landed, too late and too heavy. "I'm sorry," she said. The house waited, but apologies spoken at the edge of consequence carried less weight than she hoped. The walls opened behind her, revealing a narrow passage, dark and breathing. "No!" she screamed, scrambling backward. "Please, I'll do better. I see her now. I see you." The house did not move. It gave the choice to me. I understood then what it was asking. Balance could be restored in only one way. Either the pattern continued, one loved, one lost, or someone paid the debt. My sister grabbed my hand, nails digging into my skin. "Don't, please." I looked at her, really looked at her, and felt something I had never allowed myself before. Love, quiet, steady, real. "I won't let it take you," I said. The house softened toward me. I turned to my mother. "You taught me to survive without love. Now you have to survive knowing what that did." The passage closed. The house did not take her body. It took her certainty. From that moment on, my mother was never sure again, not of the house, not of her memories, not of who deserved what. The walls whispered to her constantly, reminding her of every moment she chose wrong. Sleep abandoned her. Guilt became the air she breathed. The house was not finished. It had restored balance between sisters. Now it wanted to decide who would stay. The house grew quiet after that, not peaceful, never that, but watchful, like an animal that has eaten enough for now and is deciding what to do with what remains. My mother wandered the halls for days, maybe weeks. Time no longer behaved properly inside the house. She spoke to walls that did not answer her the way they answered me. She apologized out loud over and over, to empty rooms, to corners, to the space aside her where I should have been standing all those years ago. The house made sure she remembered everything. At night, I could hear her sobbing as memories replayed themselves in her mind, moments she could no longer rewrite or excuse. The favoritism she once justified as practicality now appeared to her exactly as it had been, cruelty disguised as necessity. My sister stayed close to me. She slept in my room, afraid to be alone, afraid of the silence that followed her. The house treated her carefully now, neutrally, as if she were no longer part of the equation. It did not punish her, it did not comfort her. She had been removed from the imbalance. "I wish I could give it back," she said once, staring at the wall. "All the love. If I had known—" "You couldn't. That's not how it works. Love stolen unknowingly is still stolen, but guilt could not undo the damage. The house understood that better than anyone." One evening, my mother collapsed in the living room. Not dramatically, no scream, just a quiet folding inward, like a structure that could no longer support itself. I knelt beside her as she gasped for air, her eyes searching my face desperately. "Don't let it take you," she whispered. "Please, I'll leave, I'll disappear, I'll do anything." The house listened. Then it showed her the truth one final time. She saw the future without me. My absence, smoothing the guilt, restoring her ability to love my sister without remembering the cost. She saw how easily the imbalance would return if I were gone. The house would not allow that. It did not need my mother, it needed me. I understood then what staying meant. Not imprisonment, not suffering, purpose. The house did not want revenge, it wanted memory. someone to carry the full story so it could never be repeated without consequence, someone who would never allow love to be uneven again, not here, not anywhere this place could reach. My sister began to cry when she realized. "No," she said, shaking her head, "you can't stay. You've already lost enough." I held her face gently. "I won't be lost." The house opened itself to me, not as a mouth, not as a trap, but as an invitation. The walls warmed, the air softened. I felt the presence of all the others who had come before me, not screaming, not trapped, but held. They were not victims, they were witnesses. My mother reached for me weakly. "I see you now," she said. "Please." I know, that's why this works. When I stepped forward, the house accepted me completely. There was no pain, only expansion. I felt every room, every beam, every hidden passage. I felt my mother's grief as something distant, fading. I felt my sister's love as something clean and steady, finally unburdened by comparison. The house changed after that. It let them leave. The road widened, the trees leaned back. The doors opened easily for the first time. My mother and sister never looked back, not because they didn't care, but because the house no longer needed them to remember. I stayed. Years passed. Families came and went at a distance, sensing something wrong, something watching. Most never crossed the threshold. The house had learned restraint. It had me now, and I made sure it remembered what it was built on. Unequal love leaves scars. Some houses are born from them, and some of us stay behind to make sure no one ever forgets the cost again.